Imagine waking up to find your home swallowed by floods or your farmland reduced to dust. Not because of war, but because of something invisible.
Don't say climate change, please.
Climate change. The harsh truth? Some of the world's poorest nations, responsible for less than 1% of global emissions, are suffering the most. In recent years, millions have been displaced, crops have failed, and entire communities have been pushed to the brink. Deadly droughts, catastrophic storms, and rising seas are wiping out livelihoods, forcing people to flee their homes with nowhere to go. And the worst part?
I expected you to stop here.
It's only getting started. With food shortages, economic collapse, and mass displacement on the horizon, climate change is turning into the greatest crisis of our time. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into the top 10 countries most threatened by climate change. But before we count down the nations most at risk, let's break down how we ranked them.
I suggested using a crystal ball, but we decided against it.
This list is based on 3 key factors: climate vulnerability, readiness, and fragility. Climate vulnerability measures exposure to extreme weather, rising temperatures, and environmental hazards. Readiness looks at a country's ability to adapt, including infrastructure, governance, and economic stability. Fragility assesses political and social stability, because when disaster strikes, weak institutions can turn a crisis into a catastrophe. To ensure accuracy, we relied on data from the International Rescue Committee, IRC, and the World Resources Institute, 2 of the most respected sources in climate and humanitarian research. Now, let's dive into the 10 most threatened nations on the planet.
You forgot to add finally.
Coming in at number 10, Somalia, a nation long grappling with instability, is now facing a relentless climate disaster. The country swings between 2 extremes: prolonged droughts that dry up farmland and flash floods that wash away entire communities. In March 2023 alone, over 460,000 people were forced to flee due to sudden floods. And that's just 1 month. With nearly 80% of its land arid or semi-arid, every failed rainy season means another food crisis. Livestock, the backbone of Somalia's economy, is vanishing, leaving millions on the brink of starvation. Without major intervention, the future looks grim. Somalia's climate isn't just changing, it's becoming unlivable.
Is it all really due to climate change? I need more examples of how it caused such devastating effects.
The 9th spot goes to Syria, a country already scarred by over a decade of turmoil, now facing a new enemy: climate disasters. Droughts have turned once fertile lands into dust, crippling agriculture and deepening food shortages. When the rains do come, they bring destruction, washing away fragile homes and displacing thousands. The February 2023 earthquake was a brutal reminder of Syria's vulnerability. But for many, the bigger disaster is slow-moving. 90% of Syrians now live below the poverty line, making it nearly impossible to recover from each new crisis. With dwindling water sources and rising temperatures, survival is becoming a daily battle.
Can we really say Syria would be prosperous without climate change? Earthquakes aren't caused by it, right? I need more solid facts.
Next is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the climate crisis is unfolding in the shadow of ongoing turmoil. While the world focuses on conflict, an even greater threat is tearing through communities: relentless and deadly rainfall. Storms are growing fiercer, triggering landslides that swallow entire villages. In May 2023, catastrophic floods swept away homes, claiming over 500 lives in a matter of hours. Thousands were left stranded, their livelihoods wiped out overnight. With deforestation worsening the damage, each downpour brings the risk of another disaster, turning survival into a constant struggle. Coming in at number 7 is Afghanistan, a country where political instability collides with an unforgiving climate. Decades of conflict have left it vulnerable, but now an even greater crisis is unfolding, one that cannot be negotiated or fought off. Afghanistan is facing its worst drought in 27 years. Rivers and reservoirs are drying up, farmland is turning to dust, and food production is collapsing. With over 80% of the population relying on agriculture, millions are at risk of hunger. The impact is devastating. 29.2 million Afghans now require humanitarian aid, a staggering number that keeps rising. With each passing year, extreme weather tightens its grip. Flash floods follow prolonged droughts, washing away what little remains. For a country already on the brink, climate change isn't just a future threat, it's a disaster happening right now, pushing millions closer to the edge. The sixth spot goes to Yemen, a nation already crippled by years of turmoil, now facing an environmental catastrophe. As one of the most water-scarce countries on Earth, Yemen is being pushed to its limits by rising temperatures and worsening desertification. Once fertile lands are turning into barren wastelands, making agriculture nearly impossible. With food production plummeting and water sources vanishing, millions are left on the brink of survival. A staggering 17 million Yemenis depend on food aid just to get by. Malnutrition rates are soaring, especially among children, as food prices skyrocket beyond reach. The situation grows more desperate each year. Flash floods destroy what little farmland remains, while prolonged droughts make recovery impossible. For Yemen, climate change is not a distant threat. It's an accelerating disaster, deepening an already dire humanitarian crisis. Next is Chad, a nation caught in the grip of relentless climate disasters. Ranked as the world's most climate-vulnerable country, it faces a brutal cycle of extreme droughts and devastating floods that leave millions struggling to survive. In late 2022, unprecedented flooding submerged entire villages, affecting over 1 million people and displacing thousands. Families lost their homes overnight, and fields that once provided food turned into vast lakes, wiping out crops and livestock. At the same time, prolonged droughts cripple agriculture, pushing millions to the brink of starvation. With nearly half of Chad's population dependent on farming, these climate shocks don't just disrupt lives, they threaten the country's very existence. For Chad, climate change isn't a distant threat, it's a crisis unfolding in real time. South Sudan, one of the world's youngest nations, is already facing a battle it never prepared for: climate devastation. Once predictable rainy seasons have turned into relentless floods, leaving communities trapped and farmlands underwater. In 2022 alone, over 900,000 people were affected by extreme flooding, displacing families and destroying crucial food supplies. Roads and homes vanished beneath rising waters, making recovery nearly impossible. With limited infrastructure and resources, South Sudan finds itself in an endless cycle of crisis, where each year brings more destruction than the last. Holding the third spot, the Central African Republic faces relentless climate disasters on top of ongoing instability. Torrential rains lead to devastating floods, destroying homes and livelihoods. But the crisis doesn't stop there. Cholera and malaria spread rapidly in the aftermath, turning a natural disaster into a public health emergency. With displacement rising and food shortages worsening, millions are left struggling to survive. In a nation already battling deep-rooted challenges, climate change is making life even harsher. Coming in at second place, Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, faces an escalating climate crisis. Despite its economic strength, the country is struggling with devastating environmental challenges that threaten millions. Flooding has become a relentless force, submerging entire communities and wiping out vital farmland. In 2022 alone, catastrophic floods displaced over 1.4 million people, killed hundreds, and destroyed vast agricultural lands. With food production severely impacted, the situation grows dire. Now, an estimated 25 million Nigerians are at risk of extreme food insecurity, pushing the country toward a humanitarian emergency. As climate disasters intensify, Nigeria's future hinges on urgent adaptation and resilience efforts. At the top of this list, Ethiopia stands as the most severely affected nation by climate change.
As a coffee lover, I've noticed the price of Ethiopian coffee has more than doubled in the past year.
Once known for its vast highlands and fertile lands, the country is now grappling with an unprecedented environmental catastrophe. Ethiopia is entering its sixth consecutive failed rainy season, pushing millions toward the brink. Crops wither, livestock perish, and water sources vanish, leaving communities desperate for survival. In 2023 alone, over 24 million people face the devastating impacts of drought, with hunger and displacement rising at alarming rates. Ethiopia is a tragic example of how climate change is not a distant threat, but a present reality, reshaping entire nations and forcing millions into crisis. These countries are on the front line of a battle they didn't start, yet they are paying the highest price. Droughts, floods, and food crises are forcing millions to fight for survival. And the worst part? Many of these nations contribute almost nothing to global emissions. Climate resilience funding, global cooperation, and urgent action are the only ways to prevent even greater disasters. The question is, will the world step up before it's too late? What do you think is the most overlooked climate crisis today? Do you believe wealthier nations should do more to help? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video to stay updated on our upcoming content. See you soon.